Good evening. I'm your host, Karen Hudis. This show is a weekly series called the Network of Global Corporate Control that has been coming to you from DCTV for over 2 years. Today's segment is called World Bank and IMF. I'm sorry, this is the wrong teleprompter. It's not called the annual meetings. Well, I've got a different teleprompter, so I'll just speak extemporaneously. The show that we're going to be talking about and that I circulated the teleprompter to is called, I'm looking now. Sorry about that, folks. This just caught me by surprise. Okay, here we go. It's called Know Your Enemy. That's for the later program. Is that the one you got up on this? We'll just do that one. That's okay. We'll go with that one. Mo, are you there with me? Bear with us. Sorry. Okay. Today's segment is called Know Your Enemy. Thanks to DCTV, Carmen Stanley, director, Maurice Jackson, audio and prompter, and Crusade Starnes, floor director. In last week's segment, called Implementing the Global Currency Reset, we launched the cleanup of world corruption. That's actually the one that's going to be for next week. We've reversed the order. Another name for the banking cartel is the name of this DCTV series, Network of Global Corporate Control. This series has been coming to you each week for 2.5 years. 3 mathematicians at the Federal Institute in Zurich, Switzerland, Stefania Vitali, James Glatfelder, and Stefano Battiston, called their article in 2011 The Network of Global Corporate Control. The article describes how the banking cartel controls the capital markets via central banks and other financial institutions. I take direction from the beneficiaries of a trust containing the world's wealth that was deposited in the World Bank and IMF and is administered by the 189 ministers of finance and development of its member countries. Through my years in the World Bank's legal department and before as an economics student at the University of Amsterdam and a law student at Yale Law School, I have fought the corruption coming from the banking cartel. As Peter Steck, who was then the executive director for the Netherlands, testified before the World Bank's administrative tribunal on my behalf. Quote, "When I said that Ms. Hudis, in my view, is a very good lawyer, the cross-examining lawyer tried to discredit this opinion. I was in the board for 6 years and encountered many of the bank's lawyers, particularly those who assisted the committees that I have chaired, the Audit Committee and the Development Committee, as well as the leadership of the legal department, the great Ibrahim Shihada. I maintain that Ms. Hudis has the quite rare strength among the professional lawyers that she is deeply interested in the business of the bank itself, development." And then there was a tweet from RavenQuest, and he was the one who suggested that we do Know Your Enemy. That's a hashtag on Twitter. And he also suggested that we look at bankers. And Nestor Aguilar said, "What Karen was doing is not just end the Fed, but the network of global corporate control and the head of the snake. As we've learned, that's the pharaonic bloodlines and the Templars." And White Rabbit said that Abraham Lincoln was assassinated for the same reason JFK was assassinated, bankers. And Teddy Occupy said income tax gives bankers real money. It's interest on the credit of currency loan made from thin air from the Fed to the government. And he defined debt. It's an ingenious substitute for the chain and whip of the slave driver. That was also a saying of Ambrose Bierce. And somebody whose Twitter handle is SharkNark said, "Why don't sharks attack bankers? Professional courtesy. Bash the bankers." That's an anonymous quote. It takes one to know one. Here is what bankers have said about other bankers. Sir Josiah Stamp was president of the Bank of England and the second richest man in Britain in the 1920s. He declared in an address at the University of Texas in 1927, "The modern banking system manufactures money out of nothing. The process is perhaps the most astounding piece of sleight of hand that was ever invented. Banking was conceived in inequity and born in sin. Bankers own the earth. Take it away from them, but leave them the power to create money, and with a flick of a pen, they will create enough money to buy it back again. Take this great power away from them, and all great fortunes like mine will disappear, for then this would be a better and happier world to live in. But if you want to continue to be the slaves of bankers and pay the cost of your own slavery, then let bankers continue to create money and control credit." Robert Hemphill, credit manager of the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta in the Great Depression, wrote in 1934, "We're completely dependent on the commercial banks. Someone has to borrow every dollar we have in circulation, cash or credit. If the banks create ample synthetic money, we're prosperous. If not, we starve. We are absolutely without a permanent money system. When one gets a complete grasp of the picture, the tragic absurdity of our hopeless position is almost incredible. But there it is. It's the most important subject intelligent persons can investigate and reflect upon." And Graham Towers, governor of the Bank of Canada from 1935 to 1955, acknowledged, "Banks create money. That's what they're for. The manufacturing process to make money consists of making an entry in a book. That's all. Each and every time a bank makes a loan, new bank credit is created, brand new money." And Robert Anderson, Secretary of the Treasury under Eisenhower, said in an interview reported in the August 31, 1959 issue of U.S. News and World Report, "When a bank makes a loan, it simply adds to the borrower's deposit account in the bank by the amount of the loan. The money is not taken from anyone else's deposit. It wasn't previously paid into the bank by anyone. It's new money created by the bank for the use of the borrower." From the original minutes of the Philadelphia bankers sent to meet with President Jackson on February 1834, and Jackson was the 7th president. Andrew Jackson said, "When you won, you divided the profits amongst you, and when you lost, you charged it to the bank. You tell me that if I take the deposits from the bank and annul its charter, I shall ruin 10,000 families. That may be true, gentlemen, but that is your sin. Should I let you go on, you will ruin 50,000 families, and that would be my sin. You are a den of vipers and thieves. I have determined to rout you out, and by the eternal," bringing his fist down on the table, "I will rout you out." And this is taken from Andrew Jackson and the Bank of the United States, written in 1928 by Stan Henkels. Jackson also said, "If the people only understood the rank injustice of our money and banking system, there would be a revolution before morning." All of this information is finally sinking in. A critical mass of humanity is now aware that we need to take the creation of currency away from the bankers, and that is what we're doing. The bankers are fighting back, but their shenanigans are now in public view. The reason that things seem to be moving in slow motion is because of extra low-frequency scalar weaponry. Now that we know about this weaponry, it's possible to limit its effectiveness. and we have a clearly defined villain. We're looking for an important evil agency in the plot. A year ago, in the segment called Whodunit, which was a sequel to Sean Haros's video, Stop the Swiss Nazis, we described the villain. The network of global corporate control is a conglomerate that has been corrupting the politicians and business moguls all over the world. The Bank for International Settlements is the group of private central bankers who issue paper money. In the United States, this is the Federal Reserve. From Sean Haros, we also learned that these Swiss Nazis, whom we call the Network of Global Corporate Control, have been operating out of Switzerland ever since the Templars were outlawed in France on Friday, October 13, 1307, when the French King Philip the Fair arrested all the Templars in France. We also learned how during the 30 Years' War between 1618 until 1648, about 100,000 Swiss mercenaries under Templar control committed genocide against the Germans, killing 20 million Germans and their children, corresponding to 2/3 of the German population. Whole cities disappeared from the earth, and in Alsace-Lorraine, Gallo-Roman Alsace Swiss mercenaries killed 95% of the population. In a video which I tweeted on the 3rd of August, we learned that this villain has been with humanity as long ago as 9,200 BC, and probably before this ice age. This villain is good at hiding because it buys up all the media, internet search engines, and YouTube. I said this in March in a segment on 9/11. Your article has not named the empire, as Vitaly Glatfelder and Battiston of ETH Zurich, the network of global corporate control. You are incorrect also that the immediate future remains unclear, particularly for Western nations. We have been guided by an accurate power transition model that comes from the U.S. National War College. You're correct that we are now witnessing the final days of an empire which will be written about with historical clarity. Your last point, how exactly did they get away with what they did for so long, and why did we not see it? We did see it, and by raising red herrings in the alternative media, the answer to your question can be understood readily through this comment. The bankers own all the world's intelligence agencies. These thugs have been accusing anybody who sees what they're up to of being a conspiracy theorist. Last week, I tweeted the CIA memo that invented the term conspiracy theorist, and you can see the links in the teleprompter. I wrote on that memo the whole reputation of the American government, but the CIA is headquartered in Switzerland and works for the Banking Cartel. And I've given you links also to that document. It's called CIA Document 1055960. It's concerning criticism of the Warren Report. The Banking Cartel digs itself in deeper. And someone said that they were trying to like my tweet, and Twitter said that the tweet had been deleted because the Banking Cartel wants people to remain clueless. That's not likely. And somebody called Money Intern commented, "Pretty odd, I'm not able to add this or other recent segments to a playlist. I wonder why." Then on October 30th, which was the day before I needed to finish writing the teleprompter for this segment, the Banking Cartel used its favorite trick, divide and conquer, to mount an attack. The Banking Cartel has the bloodline pharaonic families at its center, out of Switzerland. Alice Castano, who has been posting many interesting articles on Facebook, described a 1,000-page history of the Jews in Russia that was written by Alexander Solzhenitsyn, and it was never translated into English. The article that Alice posted had been written in 2012, and if that wasn't a good enough attack, somebody named Jabad Al-Chandra from Thailand claimed that the bilateral Minesfield Breakthrough Successor Agreement and the Global Debt Facility were invalid. Both of these attacks were on my Facebook. I did what I always do when faced with this kind of challenge. I went to bed to sleep on it. Then the following morning, that's yesterday, I found a tweet from September when I booted up that I had written after the video of the DCTV segment on Auschwitz was restored in the archives on YouTube. I had also linked that tweet to an August 2017 article called Healing Through History, which was written about Auschwitz, and it was in Costco's magazine. The person who wrote that article was named Shauna McNally, and I said Shauna McNally and the Costco connection are perpetuating a lie. World War II was fought to end this lie, and World War III is not going to be fought at all as we tell the world the truth. Auschwitz was actually a uranium enrichment plant. The Banking Cartel deleted my YouTube video of the DCTV segment on Auschwitz, but I found it and restored it. And by the way, the reason that many of these things are restored is because there are people that are helping me. Because the people that are helping me are actually stronger than the Banking Cartel. How did I find the tweet? The good gremlins in my PC found it for me when I went to sleep. And it was published on the 2nd of August, 2016. The atomic bombing of Japan in August 1945 would not have been possible without the enriched uranium produced at Auschwitz, nor the German plutonium bomb ignition devices, which were both captured from a U-234 submarine. And I was sent a link by a man named Aaron Lamerting in July of 2016. That's how I was able to do that segment on Auschwitz. You'll also find information about the gas chambers there. They must have been a propaganda cover-up of the atomic secrets of the Germans in cooperation between Wall Street, the U.S., and the Russians. This is the network of global corporate control. The Russians liberated the camp and captured the ultracentrifuge at the plant, and they most likely employed it in their own atomic bomb program. The reality that we're currently living in is not the fake reality the dupes of the banking cartel think is real. Many people are living in reality in the world where Trump is an agent of the banking cartel and a bit actor who's bankrupt. I was writing about actual reality when I posted the teleprompter for the live segment of DCTV series. That's actually the one that we're going to show next week since we've reversed the teleprompters. I'll tell more, excuse me, could you slow down, go scroll back? I can't keep up with you there. Okay. I will tell more people on the segment on DCTV, and the segments are usually shown on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'll also tell others who view the segment on YouTube. Monoatomic gold can teach us about reality and the global currency reset. There is absolutely nothing that the banking cartel can do to change reality, which is now manifest. That's because a critical mass of people are now aware of the fact that the banking cartel is telling you lies. My first job as overseer mandate trustee of the Global Debt Facility was to tell a critical mass of people about reality so the truth would be manifest. That's because of something called the 100th monkey effect, which we talked about. It means that once a certain amount of people understand something, it becomes reality. We have actually had reality in January, but I was waiting to announce this fact so that more of us would wake up and would realize where we are. We are now, ever so gently, going to tell the rest of us that we are in the global currency reset. The banking cartel has fiddled with my links, and so the teleprompter for today's show has to be clicked on twice before it will scroll to show all the pages. The banking cartel may interfere with the DCTV broadcast in some way. Well, they obviously did by switching the teleprompters. And what happened last week was the time for the broadcast was moved an hour earlier. And on the 17th of October, right during the broadcast, the network hacked into the teleprompter. As I said, the banking cartel's censorship and tricks are backfiring. This just helps us see that the banking cartel is there playing games with us. So this is my response to the 2 attacks on Facebook that I was telling you about when I uploaded an unfinished copy of the teleprompter, of this teleprompter. As for the stories about the Holocaust, that is not what happened. The story about the 6 million Jews being killed during World War II was a big banking cartel hoax. The pharaonic bloodline families were the real Nazis, and they were the ones who murdered everyone. Major General Konstantin Petrov, a Russian military leader who chaired the political party Course of Truth and Unity, was poisoned in 2009. He was murdered to try and bury this truth with him. The Templars and the bloodline pharaonic families were also the ones during the 30 Years' War between 1618 until 1648 who hired 100,000 Swiss mercenaries to commit genocide against the Germans, killing 20 million Germans and their children, which was 2/3 of the German population at the time. Whole cities disappeared from the earth. And in Alsace-Lorraine, Gallo-Roman Alsace-Swiss mercenaries killed 95% of the population. As for my friend Jabba al-Chandra from Thailand, he is not telling the truth. The truth will out. How do we know Jabba al-Chandra is lying? Because of all the different times and ways that the banking cartel and its agents tried to steal humanity's assets in the global debt facility. You'll see there have been other attempts to deny that the bilateral Minesfield Breakthrough Successor Agreement is valid. It's my job as Overseer Mandate Trustee to protect the assets for humanity in the global debt facility from the banking cartel and its agents. During the global currency reset, we are all going to find out what really happened, and we're going to end the corruption in the world's paper money system by exchanging the banking cartel's paper currencies for currencies out of gold and local currencies issued by villages and towns. We're going to wind down the insolvent banking cartel. Insolvent, that means bankrupt. We're going to offset bogus country debt for the debt that the banking cartel owes under Treaty of Versailles bonds that are now worth $2 quadrillion. And now I'm being told that we've run out of teleprompter, and I should just talk to you extemporaneously. Well, I figured that was going to happen. So let me tell you, first of all, that about monoatomic gold. This is something which we really ought to look into. It turns out that there are other dimensions, obviously. And when a lot of us know something, that has an impact on reality. So physics, we haven't really understood it, but we're going to have to get to the bottom of it. And in the meantime, we're all going to be working together. That's really the main thing. We need to learn how to work together. The way we've been working together so far is that I accept emails from everybody, and it turns out that most of the people that are writing me are just agents of the banking cartel. And when I know that that's who they are, I don't want to hear from them. I just want to hear from people. And we're going to have to organize ourselves on a decentralized basis. It's not going to be easy because one of the things that's slowing us down is the fact that our very thought processes are being influenced by military technology. And this is not something that's published. You have to read about it on the internet. I've tried to put some links up for you, and I tried to provide information. But this is, as you know, this is a dialogue that we're having, and we've been having this dialogue for over 2 years through DCTV. I used to go on a lot of interviews, and people were asking me to do that again, but I'm very reluctant to do that because the last interviews that I've been on, it turns out that the people are, there is something called stress interviews, and then I'm not able to moderate the comments. You know, in YouTube, if you go and read the comments, you see that many of my responses are lost, and I have to tweet them or put them out on Facebook because YouTube is hiding them. And this just, it really is boomeranging against the banking cartel. They thought they were going to be invisible and remain invisible, and they're obviously not. And the very first place that they're extremely visible is in the military, the social media. It may very well be that the brass is under the network of global corporate control, but no army can operate, no military can operate only from the officers. They know that they're dependent on the troops, and the troops, in the meantime, are loyal, and they also understand that the U.S. Constitution is not in effect. One of the things that you really do have to look at is why is it that Donald Trump has not answered any of the information that I've given you. It turns out that the federal government was put in bankruptcy in the 30s, and James Traficant put that into the Federal Register. So how is it possible that we have a federal government if the federal government is bankrupt? I want to thank you for tuning into this segment of the Network of Global Corporate Control. A critical mass of people have learned about the banking cartel and its propaganda and lies. Reality is different from what you read in the banking cartel's publications and also what you learned at school. It turns out that the corruption in our money system has made a big difference in the way we live, and that is going to change as we work together to clean things up and understand how so many of us have been duped by this corruption.